Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer bringing you a little bit of a product overview and review. This is I would imagine it's probably a beta version of the tokens for Age of Sigmar. And this is from the Litko company, Litko, and they provide some of the best laser cut tokens that you're going to find out there. And this is a set that, again, I think it's a preliminary set that's meant to address some of the basic and most obvious needs to keep track of things on the battlefield. And some of these work really well. Some of them, I think they need a little bit of a redesign or rethinking. But for the most part, this is well worth adding to your collection. This is what I call nerd bling too. I mean, getting nice laser cut acrylic tokens for any of these games, things like X-Wing and I imagine Armada is going the same route, are always very impressive over some of the stuff that's standard that comes in the box. But Age of Sigmar doesn't have any of these in the box, which I think is probably a really big miss on GW's part. Of course, if they released anything, it would probably be, 5 times as expensive. But, there's plenty of companies that, do really, really good work. And some of them are big and some of them are small. And if you're not familiar with Litko, you should be, because they work with a number of different games and they're very ingenious in how they do, how they work some of their stuff. So let's take a look at that. I got a couple of sample sets from Jim from Litko, and he asked me to go and give him some advice on just some feedback on terms of the ones that he has already and maybe some suggestions on others. And I'm going to be working with him with some suggestions on individual faction packs. So for each individual army, with all the different spells and effects and command abilities, so you can actually buy one that's specific for the army you want. But this is more of a general one that can cover just about all different areas. Now, I'm going to start here on the bottom, and you'll see that there are these dark ones that are for terrain. Now, for some terrain pieces, you're going to have these specific rules, but this is where if you actually do some random terrain generation, and you have, whatever, it could be a forest, it could be a hill, it'll give you sinister, arcane, deadly, inspiring, damned, and mystical, and it'll give you a little bit of an idea really quickly so you can see at a glance what they are. Now, these look great. They're a perfect size. Obviously you could see them real well because of the white color, but I have a lot of light on here. And so that's going to illuminate and accentuate the lighter color for the verbiage. But the black background, and I've tested this out already in 2 games. 3 games. One was just a kind of a demo game. But excuse me. But these kind of can get lost. I mean, we're talking about I have a couple of lights here, including the light on my camera, and I really got to say that these dark, ebony-ish. I mean, I think these are a little greenish, so you can actually see through them. They kind of can get lost on the battlefield, especially when they're sitting maybe on like a green background. I'd like to see them a little bit more fluorescent. Now, I know some people don't like the fluorescent stuff, but I got one thing, maybe take away from your immersion. But honestly, if immersion's your thing, maybe you're looking at something like historicals. When you're looking at something like a fantasy game, I think what you need is to keep track of what's going on. And I'd like to see maybe just a little, even if it was just an outline or maybe just a little bit of a lighter color, so I can distinguish these from, say, the terrain that they're sitting on. In some cases, it's not going to be a problem, but there were a couple of cases with some darkened terrain pieces where they kind of got lost a little bit and we kind of forgot or couldn't find them for a second. We want to know what these things are at a glance. So that's my only criticism about these. Otherwise, they're fantastic. Again, perfectly sized, and they've got a really great, really quick at a glance. It says what it is. Then we have some of these stuff that's a little bit more specific. In some cases, you have to roll to, on a 1, you're befuddled and you can't do anything, which it actually says all the things that you do that happens. And on a 2+, you're ensorcelled, so you actually get some bonuses like re-rolling failed wounds. These are great, and it's nice to have something like that so you have the options. That's one of the things that I think that's one of those high detail that you're going to get from Litko that you might not get from, say, other companies. And there's other companies out there that are great too, and I'm probably going to be doing a couple of reviews on some of these other ones. But these, I think that Litko's product are just top notch. So if you have a favorite one, that's fine. If you don't know Litko or if you've tried them before, you're really getting what you pay for. I promise you on that. I think that these are just excellent quality. I really like these unit activated and combat ones. Now, the thing about the unit activated ones is, in the combat ones, you're really trying to determine what units have taken an action for whatever reason. Now, when the unit activated ones, I imagine are mostly for movement purposes. So you know that you don't double move. It could be a situation where you can get extra pile-ins with some units, and you want to see if maybe you want to go around again. It's already been activated, but you don't want to go try and do double moves or double pile-ins. That's where I think the combat one is actually better and more used. There's a use for both of these, but the combat declared is a big one, because I think that if you get into the combat phase, and I would have probably said, I just would have wanted maybe an attacked one, attack with an ED on it, just because I think it would already denote that this unit has already attacked in the combat phase. So combat declared could be a different interpretation, but within the framework of the game, it works out the same way, and it kind of looks good. So it's clear. It should be clear, but that's how you would use this one. The retreat one also phenomenal. It's perfect. If in most cases you're not going to be able to shoot or charge. There's going to be some cases where some units can avoid that or ignore that limitation. They still be able to either shoot or charge or even both. But those are unit-specific rules on their war scrolls. But for the most part, the generic rule is that if you retreat, you can't do either of these things. And that is something that is, I think it's good to put that on there. I think we need quite a few of these. By the way, all of these come in multiples to varying degrees, but you should have enough. I think this is one where you probably need a good amount of these, just like with the combat ones, just because there's going to be units that are going to retreat. I don't think you need quite as many as the combat ones, but there's going to be units, especially flyer types, that can retreat. This one up here is kind of, you can't really see it that well. Maybe if I zoom in a little bit, you can see it's kind of got a little bit of an etching in there. It says buffs and debuffs. It's supposed to be a little bit of a kind of a scroll that you write on with a non-permanent marker. And you can put, I guess, whatever you want on there. And it comes with a couple of those, like maybe 3 or 4 of them, I believe, in the pack. And that is, it's a great piece, I think, for if you really don't have anything that it's covered in any of these scrolls. Honestly, I didn't find up using it that much. It's nice to just place down a token that already has something. But again, it's good to have something like this in case you don't have something that covers some unusual situation. And it gives you enough real estate that you can write something reasonable, a couple of words down there that really will kind of give you an indication of what's going on. The general one is a very good one. Obviously, you're going to have to pick a general, so you only really need one per side, which is good. So I think you get one in the pack. What I would have liked and I didn't see is an objective one. So just to say objective, and I didn't see that. But again, this is like kind of an early version. I'm sure this is going to get way expanded upon with additional stuff. But in this pack, I would have put an objective one merely because there are objectives. There are like sudden death. You'd want to have indicate what the objective is. Where do you put it? If it's a piece of terrain, all it has to say is it has to say objective. If it's an actual unit or a character, it just has to say objective. So, and if it's your character that has to hide and survive, then you just put that next there. I would like to have seen just one of those. This one is great here, this Inspiring Presence, Ignore Battle Shock. Obviously, it's a standard one for all generals in the command phase, the hero phase. Mystic Shield, you only get one per regular pack. I would like to have seen like 2, because honestly, if you're going to play bigger games, and I guess you're just going to need to buy additional packs. Maybe there's expansion packs that he's going to do. And I've seen him do that with other things where you have a basic pack and then you have an expansion pack. That might give you an extra one for certain ones. But that's good. This one is key because you're going to be using this a lot to enhance units and get them get that really, really critical +1 to their save. I'm gonna kind of bounce around here a little bit. This charge, it looks like it says just plus dice 6 on the charge, and honestly, that's incorrect. If my memory serves, and with all the games I played, a charge is a 2 dice 6 flat, so it doesn't really modify you on a additional dice 6. This might just simply be you get a modifier on top of the die 6. So there are some scenarios where you can charge, but you can charge an additional die 6. It could be from a banner or a hero, so that's probably what this is for. But the standard charge is not move plus die 6. It's a standard 2 die 6. So that's what this is. This is probably just that enhancement for those rare situations where you get the extra 3 die 6. There are times where you get 3 die 6, you pick the top 2, and there are some other times where you pick 3 die 6 and that's your number for charging, which is pretty amazing. I'll get back to this little stack here in just a second. This set that you see here are the modifier ones. Now, I'd like to have seen some changes on these. They're really cool because they're like little dice, and they kind of give you really in a glance much of what you need: plus ones, minus ones, reroll ones, reroll misses. This one is very specific. I would like to have seen a reroll save, for example, as well, because reroll saves would, what we think is the armor saves, but they're not. But I'd like to see that one added. Reroll misses is good, because there's going to be some situations where you do rerolls, but there's also going to be some specifics on some of these minus ones that I think need to be more just more fleshed out. Minus one or plus one, you put those tokens down, you're not always really sure what it's going to be. Yes, it's going to have to. You're probably going to know your own army, but I like to have seen a series of these. Here, this reroll ones, I like to see a reroll ones and twos as an enhancement to that. So it's not just reroll ones. We see two of these because there's a bunch of things where you can not just reroll ones, but you get to reroll ones and twos. Maybe that's another expansion pack. And then these minus ones or plus ones. What I'd like to see is individual ones that are specific to hits, wounds, and saves. Because while it says a plus one or a minus one, you put that down on a unit, it's not necessarily going to, immediately on a glance tell you what that plus one is for. So one way you can do it is you can put this over here and then just write it. Now it's a little bit hard because it does cover most of it, but you could put this up here like that, which I imagine this is probably what this is for, and then write wound, or armor, wound save, or to hit, something along those lines. But it would be nice if you just had the actual counter for it. And if you're okay with that, and if you think that you're good enough for memorizing that, it's probably not going to be too much brain power to remember the specifics of what that modifier is. But I like, if you're going to have tokens, you might as well have them at a glance. So I'd like to have more versions of this that are more specific to what that plus is, and they're the three most common ones. So I like to have an extra one. This reroll misses is great. I like to see a reroll saves for the saving throws, and then I like to see more specifics on these two more than anything else. Overall, this is a great pack. And of course I forgot my favorite one, and I'm going to highlight these specifically. These are the wound markers. Now, they're magnetized, which is great, because if you have a pretty beefy unit, you can put two of these on. And in this case, I'll have, let's say this goes only up to 12, but I can put on top of this a 2 wound or a 4 for those really big units that have maybe 14 or 16 wounds. And then now I have this stack. This is specific to this unit. Now you need more of these, obviously, because even these are going to be two specific monsters, and one big, really big, juicy character, or 4 monsters. You want to get extras of these. Imagine that you're probably going to have to buy these solo as well. So I'd get more of them, just because you're going to use them. If you're going to go down this road, you might as well. But you lose the first 2. Now you can go start counting down from 12, and then you just mark it off. And these are great. They're just small enough that they can slip in there right next to the unit, not be too intrusive. And they're just perfect. You're sitting there and you just do a little spin on the dial, and go, until you get to 0. And then remove it in the model. I love these, and the fact that you can stack them is also great. It's you're not going to stack really more than that, because this is really for monsters and big creatures that have 10 or more or 8 or more wounds. You might also use it for cav and whatnot, but you're not going to need more than 1 dial on those, on units that like monsters, cavalry, and chariots. But for the big monsters that go a little bit higher, you might stack them like this, and that's just key. And they're really cool. And then when you want to store them, you just stack them up. So, this is an absolute must for me. I mean, I've been pulling out the old tabletop 10, 12-sided dice, and I have these little red, just rock tokens, and green rock tokens, and black rock tokens, just standard tokens, really, cheap and whatnot. But they all pile up, and you have a little, there's all these little, little tokens. They don't really say much. They're color coordinated. But a dial like this is so much more efficient. I would absolutely use this more than anything else. A great starter kit. Once again, I'm putting up an entire list. I'm sure Jim is probably getting input from a number of different people on a variety of different tokens that are, again, specific spells, army specific units, different factions. I'm sure he's going to be putting out, a set faction by faction. I've already got an extended Excel sheet that I'm going to be sending over to him, which I'm sure is going to grow over time and evolve. What's really nice is that we're seeing more and more of these token sets, and this is the first really complete one or near finished one. A great starter set, absolutely. So I highly recommend you go over into Litko and take a look at that, and just keep track of the kind of, what new sets they're going to be adding in, because I'm sure there's going to be changes over time. Thanks again, Jim, for letting me take a look at these, and you'll be seeing these in future battle reports. Not some of the ones I have in the hopper, because those were taped 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting to get to them. But you'll start seeing these right away, especially when I start getting the faction specific ones. And hope you enjoyed. Have a great day, everybody.